Hello and welcome. This is Lino Tadros. And in this video, I have to confess, I received a lot of different messages that say that my videos, when I show Azure AI Foundry using an Azure AI search, everything works great if the Azure AI search is being created and used from inside of the Azure AI Foundry. But they said they had a lot of problems, a lot of errors when they tried to create the Azure AI search completely outside of the Azure AI Foundry and then trying to bring it in, then they see a lot of different errors and problems. So I thought I'll make this video to show you the correct way to actually bring in an outside Azure AI search index and be able to use it in your Azure AI Foundry. I'm also gonna keep the errors in so you can actually learn how to get around these errors as well. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new project in a hub. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I have other videos that show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and do this really quickly. First, we'll go ahead and create a resource group really quickly. We'll say create, and there is my resource group. We'll call it RG AI demo or whatever you'd like. Oops. Let me put a dash in here. You can put it in East US 2. I think that's a safe place, so we can make sure everything will work. For right now, not all regions have all the different features, so I'm going to go ahead into tags. It's fine with me. Review, and we'll go ahead and create the resource. All right. Once this is done, we'll go to that resource, and I'm going to go ahead and create my Azure AI Foundry. There you go. Until we find one. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and create that resource. Of course, we're going to create it inside of that RG AI demo. We're going to also choose this to be East US 2. We're going to give it a name. We'll call it Test Lino Hub. Alrighty. And Hub. Alrighty. And we get a friendly name. The default project group will be the AI demo that we just created. And then the AI services based model. You can choose to create that weird name, or I usually like to make it a little bit more readable. So I'm going to come in here and say Test Lino AI service. All right, that's good enough for me. We'll say save this guy. And now we go to the storage, and the storage, again, you can leave it like that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to leave it like that. I don't care. And then I'm going to use an Azure Key Vault. Again, I'm going to leave it that weird name. I usually like to click on create new, so we can actually have a decent name being created in my resources, but it's not important right now. All right, let's go to networking. I'm going to keep it public, so we don't need to create any private endpoints or anything for right now. I'm going to go to the encryption, identity. We're going to definitely keep it as system assigned identity, no tags for right now, and create. Once it's being reviewed, we'll say create. And we're done. We're going to come back here in about 30-40 seconds when everything has been created. As you can see, it's still in the process. Remember, a hub will have to be created. The AI service will have to be created. The hub, the storage accounts, a lot of different things will have to be created. So we'll give it another minute. And indeed, after maybe 40 or 50 seconds, everything has been created. Let's go to the resource. There is the hub. I can now launch the Azure AI Foundry itself from inside of there, and I should be inside of the Azure AI Foundry, and I'll be able to see everything that I need. Remember, there is no project so far. There is only a hub, so we need to create a project in that hub. We'll say new project. We'll call it, for instance, Lino Test. You can call it whatever you want for right now, and we'll go ahead and create that project. We'll give it also a few seconds for this to finish. And we're in good shape. There is the project, the Lino test we just created. There is my API key for the endpoint. And I'm ready to go. Well, the one thing that you probably are aware of based on the previous videos, that I don't have any models actually deployed. So the first thing I usually like to do is to click on models and endpoint. This will be empty completely. I'm going to deploy a couple. First one is for the LLM, so we can actually use, let's say, GPT-4o, for instance, if I want to. And we'll say confirm this guy. I usually like to click on customize, give myself a little bit more tokens to play with. Instead of 10K, we'll make it 40K. It all depends on your quota, of course, but feel free to give it whatever you can. I'm not going to need to bring it in all the way up because I have a lot of quota actually for 4.0, but we'll go ahead and deploy this guy. And once this is done, notice it's very fast, succeeded. I'm going to also create another one. I would like to create one for the embedding. If you don't create this one, it will still work, by the way, because the default is the 88002 with dimensions of 1536. But I would like to use one of the newer ones, which is the 8A003 small. You can also use the large one, but the small is pretty good for us for right now. So I'm going to say deploy the model, and I'm just going to look for something that has the number 3 in it. Let's see, there you go. There is the large, there is the small. I'm going to click on the embedding, and we'll say confirm this guy, and this is all good enough for me. Okay, great. So now my project has 2 models deployed, one for the LLM, which is GPT-4o, and one for the embedding, which is the 03 small as well. Excellent. Can I actually make sure that this is working? Let's go to the playground, for instance. There are a lot of choices nowadays. You can use the chat playground. You can try speech for audio. The new assistant playground for preview is excellent. And there are other videos to talk about all of these things for images, for real-time audio, healthcare, language, all of these things. But for right now, I just want to make sure that everything is working correctly. Let's click in here. You'll notice I have only one model that is for the LLM GPT-4o right now. This is the one I'm going to be using. I can give it whatever system prompt I want right there. I can change it, of course, and apply the changes. And I can actually start asking a question and see if it will work. It's like, why is the sky blue? And we let it go, and we'll see if it comes back, talking to the GPT-4o right from the side of my playground. Just to test it and make sure that everything is working correctly. There you go. It has all the information about Rayleigh scattering in here and explains it exactly. So it looks like everything is working. At this point, of course, I can deploy and have my flow ready publicly. It can be hit with a score endpoint with an API key, and we are ready to go. All right. Notice I can actually come in here and probably use the data and the indexes and do the vectorization from inside of the Azure AI Foundry, and that is available in other videos that I've created. No problem. The questions that I'm getting is that what happens if the index is available and created outside of the Azure AI Foundry completely? What kind of trouble you can get into being able to use it, for instance. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead back into my RG AI demo, my resource group. And these are the only resources. Notice there is a storage, which is great. There is a key vault. There is a hub. There is a project. And there is my AI, OpenAI service as well. All the AI services are available and ready to go. But there is no Azure AI search or anything. So instead of creating it from inside of the project, I would like to create one here in my resource group. It doesn't even have to be in the resource group. It could be somewhere else if you want to as well. But let's go ahead and create this. We'll say create. And I'm going to say Azure AI search. There we go. Hopefully we'll find one really quickly. There you go. And we'll say, I would like to create one of those guys. Right now, what we're doing has nothing to do with the Azure AI Foundry. This is a completely separate resource. I'm just going to happen to create it inside of my resource group called RG AI Demo. The service name, we'll call it Test Search, for instance, or something like that. In English usually works better. There you go. And then I'm going to also, it's already, let me put my name at the end because we want to make sure it's not being used. And then instead of the central US, I'm going to put it also in the US, East US too as well. For the pricing, you can actually go with the free, but you also only have 3 indexes, which might be okay for this one. 3 indexes is very small, but it's free, which is always good. You can also use the basic get a 15, or you can use the default, which is a standard. The standard is $250 a month, so be careful. I'm okay actually using the standard right now, so I can use all the capabilities of the Azure AI search. But remember, after this video, I will be deleting, of course, my resource group, so I will not be charged much. I'm not going to be paying $250 or anything like that. All right, so let me go ahead and close this down. We'll keep it as a standard. We'll say the scale is fine, the networking is public, no tags for me right now. And finally, I was just going to create my search. And we'll come back after this is done. All right, and after a few minutes, the search Azure AI search resource has been created, and we are pretty good to go. All right. So right now I have maybe 2 or 3 files that contains a lot of information about hotels, for FAQs and hotel information in like 8 different countries. And I would like to start asking questions about those because I'm not ready to go to Azure AI Foundry. I just want to go ahead and load these files into Azure AI Search, and I would like to vectorize them and make Azure AI Search the vector store before I do anything else in Azure AI Foundry. So Azure AI Foundry doesn't know or have a clue at all about what I'm trying to do here with Azure AI Search. So the easiest way to do that, folks, is to actually click on the import and vectorize data. Again, this resource I just created is completely empty. I'm going to click on that. And you get to the data. You can get it from Azure Blob Storage. You can get it from EDSL, Cosmos DB, OneLake, table storage, SQL databases, and more coming as well in the future as well. So for right now, I'd like to go ahead and put it in the Azure Blob Storage, for instance. So if I click on that, it will ask you what subscription you want to use, where is the storage account. Remember, there is a storage account that got created for me, and it's called Test Lino Hub with some numbers after it. That's the one I want. But there is nothing there, okay? So I need to load the files first. So let me go ahead and open up another one in here. I'm going to say portal.azure.com. Let me go ahead and load these 2 or 3 files in my storage to get it from there. So we'll say resource groups. I think this is called the Azure AI demo. And there is my storage right there. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to configuration first of all. And there is something here, allow blob anonymous access. It's always disabled by default. I need to enable that, otherwise it will not work. So we'll say save. That's an important step that you'll have to do. Otherwise, you're going to get an error when you're trying to upload something, because it's a private endpoint for that storage. Okay, so let's go ahead back to the containers in here. And I would like to create a brand new container. You can call it whatever you want. I'll say my stuff, alrighty. And then instead of making it private, I'm going to say blob anonymous read access for blob only. That's good enough for me. And we'll say create. All right, so my stuff is there. I'm going to click on it. Now we go ahead and click on upload, and let's upload a few files. We'll say browse for files. And I have a file called faq.txt, hotels.txt, and resource.txt. Okay, let's go ahead and say open those. And I'm going to say upload. All right, they are very small files, but they have some pretty good information about all the 8 or 9 different hotels that this company has, for instance, in like 7 different countries, in Costa Rica, United States, and in the Caribbean as well. And we'd like to ask questions about that. All right, so I'm in pretty good shape. They're all there. We're ready to go. Let's go back to the import and vectorization. And I'm going to be pointing to Test Lino Hub storage. And now it's going to ask me what container you'd like to use. And there is my stuff right there. And it's at the root, so I don't have to put anything in the folder. And I can actually say authenticate using managed identity. That's a good idea, alrighty. And you can leave it as a system assign. You don't need to use a user assign. You can use both, of course, if you want to. And look what happens when I say next. So people get this. Ensure managed identity is enabled for your service. So that means that this service doesn't have the identity of managed system assigned available for me. So unfortunately, this is not going to work. So I need to go back to my account for the search. Let's go to the resource. And I'm going to go on the left side to identity in here for the Test Search Lino. And you have to turn this on. The system assign, by default, it will be off. If you're going to use user assign, please do that and add the user assign that you'd like to use. But in my case, I'm going to just make it system assign. We'll make it on, and we'll say save, and we'll say good for you. And we will be patient. We will wait a minute or two for it to actually come back and propagate through the system for that Test Search Lino. All right, so we're in pretty good shape. Now let's go back to the overview. And I'm going to do an import and vectorize again. I'm going to say blob storage one more time. And again, I'll do the same thing I did before. And this time it will be the my stuff. And I'm going to say authentication. I'm going to leave it as system assigned. Let's click on next and see what happens this time. Unable to retrieve blob container to account blah, blah, blah. Using your managed identity, ensure the resource ID correct and that the managed identity for your search service has been granted storage blob reader. This is something we did not do. So this is some of the errors that people are asking about for my videos. What's going on in here and how we can fix that. And again, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to finish it up. So we will need to go actually to the resource itself for the storage. And we will need to give storage blob data reader on that Azure AI search automatically for us, so we can actually continue working with that. Alrighty, so let's go back in here to this guy. We'll go to the resource. Where are we? Let me go to the AI demo. I need to find out where my storage is, and there is my storage. Let me open it up, and we will go to the XSIM right there, and I'm going to say add a role, and we've seen I actually copied that, if you remember, into my clipboard. It's called storage blob data reader. There it is. I'm going to click on this guy. We'll say next. Is it going to be a user, group, or a service principal? No, I decided to use managed identity. Let's click on that, and we'll say select the member. And now if I go to the managed identities, there are 6 of them, 2 app services, 1 hub, 1 project, 1 machine for Azure Arc, and there is the service search server. Of course, if you want to be lazy and click on all 6 of them, it will work as well, but try to be very, very specific. So I'm going to say the search service, and there it is, the test search lead. I'm going to say select this guy, and now I'm going to say next, next, and we'll go ahead and review and assign. And again, sometimes it takes a minute or 2 to propagate through the system, but this is all I needed to do to actually make sure that these 2 services are using managed identity and they allow each other to work to get it from the storage for all my 3 files. Excellent. Let's go back to the resource again, and we will do that one last time. This time, hopefully it will work. We'll go ahead to the storage account. We'll say the test Lino account. The My Stuff folder that has the 3 files, authenticate using managed identity, and this time when I say next, I'm hoping this one will not be a problem. The request is not authorized to perform this operation using this permission, and that is correct because, like I said, it takes a minute or 2 to propagate, so I'm going to go ahead and click on next in about a minute. So I'm going to stop the video, come back after a minute to make sure it propagated correctly. Right, we'll try it one more time. I waited for about a minute and a half, and it looks like it's taking longer. That's a good sign. All right, so it propagated our system assign. Okay, it did work. Okay, perfect. Now we get to the second one, which is what kind of the Azure OpenAI? Do you want to use one from inside of the Azure AI Foundry itself as a catalog model, or do you want to use a completely different Azure OpenAI? Why do I need Azure OpenAI or something else from the Azure Foundry? It doesn't have to be OpenAI, by the way. It could be something that you brought in from Hugging Face or whatever, Llama 3.2 or Phi 3.5 or Phi 4 or something like that, that has actually an embedding model that you would like to use. The reason why I need this is because I need an embedding model to be able to create the vectorization for everything, okay? So the easy one, of course, if I use the Azure AI Foundry, I will be able to use the embedding I just created inside of Azure AI Foundry. But I promise that I'm going to show this how to do it completely outside of the Azure AI Foundry. That means I need an Azure OpenAI. So when I click on that, it will tell you, by the way, in your subscription, you don't have any Azure OpenAI available that you can actually piggyback on. So again, I'm going to have to go back one more time to fix that problem. So we'll go to the resource group in here. I'm going to say create, and really quickly we'll look for Azure OpenAI. There it is, and right there I'm going to go ahead and create a resource like this, again completely outside of the Azure AI Foundry. I'm going to put it in East US 2 as well, and we'll give it a name. We'll call it test Lino OpenAI. There you go. Alrighty, and then the pricing tier here is the only thing I have available is the standard S0 spine. And if we've done everything well, we'll say next. We'll leave it for all networks for right now. Tags, thank you very much. And I'll go ahead and create that specific resource. So I have one Azure OpenAI inside of my Azure AI Foundry, and I have another resource for Azure OpenAI completely outside of Azure AI Foundry available in that specific resource group as well. So hopefully you can see that really vectorizing all your documents inside of Azure AI Search has nothing to do with what you're going to end up doing inside of Azure AI Foundry itself. Very important to understand that. All right, it's done. Let's go to that resource. And now in my Azure OpenAI, I'm going to actually also say open that specific resource in the Azure AI Foundry portal. Again, don't get confused between the project we created and what I'm doing right now. Right now, I'm in the test Lino OAI. Notice there are no deployment at all because it has nothing to do with our hub or project or anything like that. So I will need to do more deployment. So we'll go to deployments in here. And let's go ahead and deploy. I just need an embedding model. I don't need actually an LLM in here. So I'm going to put the number 3, and there it is, the text embedding 3 model. We'll say confirm this guy, and we'll say deploy. All right, so this Testlino OAI has a deployment, and the only deployment is an embedding model 3 small, which is also 1536 dimensions as well for the embedding. All right, great. So can we now go back and find out what our resource is? Let's go ahead in here and open up the search again. And for the 15th time, let's go ahead and try to import and vectorize the data. All right. I'm going to go ahead and use the Testlino, and we'll point the container for my stuff, and we'll use the managed identity, all the stuff we've done before. And this time, hopefully, when we get to the Azure OpenAI, notice it sees that there is something called Testlino OAI. That's great. Let's click on that. And then which deployment? Remember, I just deployed the small 3, and there it is, text embedding 3 small. Do you want to use an API key or a system assigned identity or a user identity? You have the choice between all of them. I will leave it as an API key and will say, I acknowledge that connecting to an Azure OpenAI server will incur additional cost to my account, all the tokens that will be used to vectorize all my 3 files. I says, I understand, and let's go ahead and say next. I'm not going to use vectorization of images or enrich anything right now, and we'll say next. I'm also not going to schedule the indexing to happen on a specific time, and I'm not going to choose specific fields for the index. We'll just keep it simple for this one. And here, I'm going to say Lino, let's call it FAQ, for instance, okay? That's the name of my index that will be created. Let's click on create, and be patient in here. There is a lot of things that will have to happen. An indexer has to be created. The skills have to be created. And then after a while, this will happen. So if I click on indexers here on the left side, you will see it's a success. The indexer got created 3 seconds ago. It found out that we have 3 documents. These are the 3 text files that I uploaded to the storage. And if you click on indexes, you will notice the Lino FAQ got created, but it's all says 0. Don't panic about that. This stuff takes time. Come back here in about a minute or 2, and you will see the document count. We'll have all the items that got indexed inside of these 3 files. But don't worry, it will happen. It's not immediate, so people panic usually and say something went wrong. No, actually nothing went wrong. It just takes time to actually do all the embedding for all of these documents inside of these 3 files. So we'll come back here in a minute and refresh this page and see what's happening. And I clicked on refresh after maybe 40 seconds or so. And you'll notice there are now 15 document count. Remember, it's 15, not 3, because our chunking is happening inside of those. So the vector index size is 91 kilobyte. The total storage, this is how much it took in the storage itself, but I'm in pretty good shape. All the stuff now, it's working correctly. Has nothing to do with Azure AI Foundry. Hopefully that makes sense so far. All right. Let's go back to our Azure AI Foundry. Let's see if there is another project in here, and hopefully we'll find one. This one test, let me show all the resources. I want the one that just got created. Yep, these are the 2. There was also archived one that showed up. I don't want to use this Lino OAI. This is the one I use for the embedding for my Azure AI search. I want to use the one that I created in the beginning of this video. So let's click on this guy. And you'll notice I have GPT-4o and text embedding 3 small have been deployed for this one. So I would like to go ahead and start actually working with a flow in here to make sure that I can definitely create a flow that uses the embedding as well. Remember, we are in the AI services, and I need to go back to the Azure AI Foundry itself, and I need to find out where my project is. There is the project. Let's click on this guy. Oh, let's select another project. It's refreshing for the cache, and I believe we called it Lino Test. Yep. Let's open this guy up. All right, this is the one that have the GPT-4o and the text embedding 3 small in here as well. Excellent. Now I am in the management center of the specific project. Usually you'll find yourself in the project. And when you go to the project in here and click on the prompt flow, I don't have any prompt flows right now at all. I'm going to create my first one. And let's say I want to use a chat flow, the one that has the multi-round question and answer on your own data. That sounds like a good one. And there is another video to go in details on how all that stuff works. This one, I just want to concentrate on the Azure AI search coming in from the outside. All right, we will leave that name. That's fine with me. We'll say clone that. We'll use it with that weird name. It's fine. And we will wait here for a few seconds until it creates the flow. And indeed, it took about 30 to 40 seconds for the flow to get created. And let me close down the files, and here is fine. And this is my cloned version. That means we will have a questions coming in as the input. We will use the modify query with history, and that is all the information here in Python to include the chat history and everything like that. And the most important part of this specific video is the lookup. How I'm going to hook it up to an outside Azure AI search index in the vector store that was created outside of the Azure AI Foundry. That's the fun part. First thing you're going to do is to start the compute session. So I know that takes usually a couple of minutes. So while it's starting, let's go ahead and turn on all the connections on all the things in here that uses an LLM. For instance, the modify query with history, I have to hook it up to my Azure OpenAI, choose the GPT-4o in here, that's fine. We'll keep temperature is 0 is fine with me. Always remember to click on save whenever you make these changes. Let's go back down a little bit until we see something else that requires an LLM. Oh, and by the way, automatically in prompt flow for Azure AI Foundry, when you create or clone a specific chat flow, it will create 3 different variants of the prompt. I don't need really the 3 for this specific video. So I'm going to say show the variants, and I'm going to only leave the first one, which is variant 0, and I'm going to delete the other ones. We'll say delete the 1, and I'm going to delete the 2 as well. I don't need to do evaluations or anything like that. Of course, you can keep it if you'd like to run some evaluation to find out what is the best prompt engineering for what you're trying to do as well. And finally, at the bottom, for the LLM, the chat with context, I'm going to also set this up for my LLM, the GPT-4o. Keep the temperature as 0, with the maximum token is 1000. And I think I'm in pretty good shape. Let's save all that stuff. So the only thing left really is the lookup. So let me click on the lookup in here. And there are some things that need to happen. So if I click on this value for the machine learning index content, notice in here in the value when you open it up, there will not be what you expect. There is nothing in here regarding the other Azure AI search that you created. There's only FICE and ML index file from past. So something is definitely wrong in here. Where is this guy? Well, remember, the Azure AI Foundry needs to have a connection to the other Azure AI search that you created on the outside. It will not figure it out by itself. So let's cancel that for a second. And what I would like to do is to go all the way down to where it says Management Center. See that? Let me click on this. And now I'm going to say I'd like to create a brand new connection. Where is the connection for? Is the connection for Azure AI Search or for OpenAI Service, or what is it? It's of course for Azure AI Search. Let's click on that. And it will find out that there is a completely different resource. It's called Test Search Lino in here available that I can connect to. This is the one that Azure AI Foundry doesn't know anything about yet. So I'm going to click on add the connection. And from that point on, I have that as a secondary Azure AI search if I want to be able to use in my project. That's it, right? So we'll say go back to the project now, and we will go back to our prompt flow. Notice the computer is still running. Let's give it a second here with refresh. Yep, it is running. I'm going to click on lookup. And in here, when I come back in here, you might actually get confused because when you bring it down, still nothing. Remember to refresh this because we just added the connection. So when I refresh this, Azure AI Search will show up. Isn't that cool? All right. Now we need to fill up all the stuff because the system doesn't know this is completely an outside Azure AI Search vector store. So first of all, it wants to find out the index connection. That will be the test search Lino. Then it will find out what is the index name. Remember, we called it Lino FAQ, I believe. Yep, Lino FAQ. And then what is the content field? That will be the chunks. Let me go ahead and click on chunk in here. And then the next one is the embedding field. That will be the vector, text vector. There you go. So it's helping you out. You don't have to figure this stuff by yourself, but you'll need to have some information about the field and the metadata field. The metadata field is also the chunk in my specific instance. The semantic configuration in here, if you open this up, that will be the Lino FAQ semantic configuration that got created automatically from the importer and the vectorization in the Azure AI Search. The embedding type, remember, it was the embedding 003, right? So Azure OpenAI, and then I'm going to be able to use the connection for, is it the Azure OpenAI? Yeah, it is the Azure OpenAI, and we will use this service, and hopefully the ADA003 will be showing right there. All right, excellent. So once you fill up all that stuff, I'm going to say save this, and all the stuff will be added automatically to the ML index content in here. And then we will just have to make sure that the query is getting the information from the modify query with history. And the query type, when you bring it down, there will be a lot of different choices in here. All right. I want to get the best one, which is the hybrid between vector and keyword. Let's click on that. And I'm going to bump it up. I don't want only the first 2. I'm going to bring in the first 5. All righty. Let's go ahead and say save from all of that stuff. If I've done my job right and I start chatting now, whenever I ask a question, it will go to a completely an outside Azure AI search vector store that I created outside of Azure AI Foundry to be able to run all the stuff by. Okay, let's go ahead and give it a shot. We'll say chat. And again, this is coming in from the history because of the demo of the cloning of the chat, but I don't need any of that stuff. So I'm going to delete all this and I'm going to say something like, which hotels have an EV charging station? Sounds good. Then let's see if it can actually answer that question. It can give me even a citation where it was able to find it from. So we'll click on run this guy, and the drum's rolling, and we'll see if it works. Going once, going twice, sold. It usually takes about 10 seconds the first time you hit this, and after that you'll be able to chat and ask more questions if you want to as well. All right, it looks like it's completed. Oh, I don't know. So why don't you know? It took 2545 tokens, 6.25 seconds, and it doesn't know. Maybe the question I asked was not 100%. Let me ask the question again. Sometimes these things happen with Azure OpenAI, right? So let me go ahead. Oops, no, that's not the one. Let me go ahead and here copy that into the clipboard and ask the question one more time. And indeed, so whenever you get answers like I don't know, there could be a lot of different things. It could be a hiccup in the Azure OpenAI, the API itself, throttling, whatever it is. But again, it came back when I did it for the second time, and it gave us actually the 4 different hotels that have electric charging stations in these hotels, which is great. I can also go back and open up one of my text files to actually cheat a little bit to find out what can I ask about. So let's do it. Let's go ahead and do that. So I open up one of the 3 files. It's called hotels.txt. And if you take a look, actually it's not text at all. It's all JSON, but it was fine. The system will be able to read it, whether it has an extension JSON or .text, it will still understand. So we have a hotel name and the resort name. If you go down a little bit, let's ask a questions about this. The name of the hotel is Grand Regency, and it's in Puerto Rico, for instance. So let's go ahead and take the word Puerto Rico, San Juan. Let's go ahead and Control-C this. And then let's ask a questions like, what hotel is available in Puerto Rico, San Juan? Okay, let's see if it will figure it out based on the chunking and the vectorization in Azure AI Search to let us know that the Grand Hyatt is the one that's available over there. So we'll give it here a second or 2 for this to run. And once it's completed, we'll be able to trace it and see exactly what happened in there. All right, it did figure it out. The hotel available in Puerto Rico, San Juan is Grand Regency, and the source is the provided data inside of that Azure AI Search as well. Of course, you can change your prompt to give you the source exactly what's the name of the file, like hotel.txt or is faq.txt or resort.txt. You can do that part of your prompt engineering as well. But hopefully this was useful to you. So for those of you that asked to show a video how to actually load outside Azure AI Search completely from the outside for vectorization instead of using it from the inside of Azure AI Foundry itself, it's not that difficult. You can definitely do it, and it's a lot of fun. And then of course you can deploy all of this and it will continue to work just fine. All right, if you like this video, please click on like, and if you'd like to be notified about future videos, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.